Good morning, Caitlin.
Good morning, Heather. What's up, everybody? I'll be on in just a sec. I'm just setting up a couple things. Love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Good morning, and or maybe good afternoon, or maybe good evening. I think everybody here so far is in the US, but I could be wrong. Hi, welcome, welcome. Yay, thanks for tuning in. I haven't done a Saturday morning call in a while, and I was curious, who would make the time? I'm I'm having a little battle where I don't know, my voice is feeling raspy. It's funny. I feel well, but oh, just seeing these. Thank you, Tanya, for the happy birthday. Hello, Pearl, Anastasia, Melissa on the go. Hi, Christina, and Carly's here. Hello, and Heather, my love. Glad to see you and hear you for a second. Ah, Welcome to our first Temple of Wow community prayer gathering. I'm so excited for this. Give me 1 second. I'm going to clear my throat a little bit more. All right, here we go. Welcome. We might have a few more people drip in. And if not, they will watch it on the playback, I'm sure. Some people. And we will get flowing. Thank you so much for making the time. I know, I mean, I was inspired to do this call and to create this space because it is not always easy to create, to have the will or the remembrance or sometimes even the inspiration to create time to pray. And at least that's been my experience. I would love for that to change. That's part of my intention today is to kind of reinitiate myself into a level of devotion that I've lived, that I know is possible, that I know is absolutely transformative for my life experience and the way that I'm so sorry about my voice. Just clearing stuff, clearing stuff. Um, the way that things have been going in this world, I found it really, I'm going to talk about the principles of our temple space here in a moment, but one of them is definitely honesty. It's one of the magic makers. And I have found these times to be increasingly confronting in such a way where it's really it's really fragmenting of the attention for me and for some, a lot of people that I know and that I've been witnessing. Hi, Zoe. Thank you for being here, sister. Are you in Austin? Oh, she just moved to Austin. Welcome. Big double welcome to you. I'm so excited to hear about your adventure. So I have been feeling the tension of this time and just the overwhelm and the intensity of the ways that our attention has been pulled and just bombarded with information, bombarded with noise. And what's happening in my body, at least, is there's a lot of churning of um, emotion that's not supportive to the kind of magic I want to create in my life. And it's very subconscious and it's very subtle, but it's measurable and I can feel it. And so I have been intending for a while now to create, yes, just tuning in to everybody. Okay, we still got some people. I'll actually wait a second for this intention, but before we begin, I'll share the intention once everybody's a little bit more settled. But before we begin, I would recommend you having something to write with, just to take some notes if that feels good for you. Also, you guys are here to receive. This is a prayer, kind of part Dharma talk, part collective prayer. I'm going to really just open up and share some perspectives that I feel would be of service to human beings at this time, certainly be of service to myself to be reminded of, and help our circle kind of feel into ways that we can direct our attention with intention at a time where there's a lot of noise, a lot of distraction, and a lot of disruptive emotion that can co-opt our attention with energies like fear, doubt, anxiety, and that can really obstruct our connection to the divine. And so I'm going to make a space for us today that's very inclusive. Um, it's going to be playful. It's here for you to take it or leave it. And this is really one of my primary objectives, is to empower all of us to have creative relationships with the divine that are founded in truth in our bodies. So rather than, um, a lot of the ways that we learned about what God, who or what God is, which was prescriptive, which was being told by somebody what that meant and who that was and what that looked like. And, we want to feel with discernment and curiosity and love what rings with truth in our being. And so everything I'll share will be here as perspective for you to try on and see what rings with truth in your being. And anything that doesn't ring with truth in your being, you can just let it keep flowing. And we will play and we will pray and we will see what happens on the inside of us. And then we'll have an experiment that we can start running and working with in our daily lives with some different tools that I'm going to share. So a few of you are, a lot of you I know from, from different spaces. A few of you are new faces to me. So welcome and thank you for saying yes to my invitation that I just kind of put out on a broader scale on my Instagram yesterday. I originally had a vision for this temple space, the Temple of the Holy Wow. And what I've always wanted to create is an offering that was a free, open to everyone, non-denominational, non-prescriptive place for us to gather in prayer and open our hearts to one another, open our hearts to magic. And I have a lot of fun ideas for this space. And just to give a little bit of context right now, um, I just opened a lot of you guys are part of it, a little community called the Playhouse Expressive, which is all about personal expression and the magic and the play of that, yeah, that aspect of who we are. And really founded and rooted in poetry because I find it to be such um, a space of freedom for personal expression when we give ourselves permission. But there's so much more to that that I believe is really activating of magic in our lives, including costuming and dance and really all forms of honest, joyful, liberated personal expression that helps us reclaim and retrieve parts of our soul. And so when I had the vision for the Temple of Wow, which Eric and I have talked about for a long time, he's still asleep right now. I was really hoping he would join us, but we stayed up late watching White Lotus, was kind of wild, and finished that show about 2 a.m. So he's still in bed, but he and I, it feels like, and Eric is my partner, for anybody who doesn't know that. I think you guys probably are aware if you follow me, Eric Godsey, but I've found that the moments when I really feel God, there's always a feeling of wow. There's always a feeling of having the ordinary experience of reality kind of having the bubble burst and feeling this elevation and this wonder. So wonder for me is a it's a quality of the divine. It surpasses and kind of blows the roof off of the mundane. I also am passionate in my belief that the ordinary world is just teeming with divinity. It's teeming with magic. It's teeming with wonder and wow. And we are just so familiar with it that we have lost our capacity to feel the wow for the ordinary world. And I believe through experience that big magic starts to happen when we revive our capacity to feel the wonder and the wow for ordinary life. And when we find the capacity to look for it and to honor it and to show up to it as though it is divine because it actually is. And then we awaken that innate quality of it through us. And so I wanted to create spaces where it isn't gated. It's open for everybody to come and get curious about new perspectives that can ring with the resonance of truth in our bodies. And we can reestablish this direct connection to the divine in our everyday lives. And so what I did was I opened this Playhouse Expressive space. We're kind of new and it's been a quiet, soft opening. But ultimately, I decided rather than diluting all of my messaging with different spaces and having the Temple of Wow be this one thing and having the Playhouse Expressive be the separate thing, that I would combine them and put them together. So this is our first official. We've had one other circle with the Temple of Wow frame in the Playhouse. But this is our first official gathering, and I wanted to make sure that people, from anywhere could tune in today and kind of get a sense of it and try it on and see how it feels for you and see what happens in you with this perspective. So this is our official opening ceremony for the Temple of Wow, and the Temple of Wow currently lives inside of the Playhouse Expressive, which is in school. And what today's call is going to look like is I'm going to kind of have a dharma talk with you. I want a better word. It's sort of like a transmission or a sermon. It's really just here to kind of stoke the creative fire within you and help you get to connect with yourself, help you get to clarify some perspectives on how you would like to nurture your relationship with magic and with the divine forces that inform our every moment of living experience. And then I'm going to have some prompts for you guys, and we're going to get to kind of clarify this prayer that's wanting to come through us individually today. And we will also have a group prayer that I will lead based on what I'm feeling from all of you guys. So for those of you who can't be on camera, totally blessed and totally perfect. You can just receive and listen, and it will be just right. And also for those of you who can stay on camera and fully participate, that's a beautiful offering and really appreciate it as well. Thank you, Carly. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, a lot of magic in there. Wow. Just checking in here. Okay. Hmm. Oh, yeah, I can't see the image, but we can download it. I know which card you're talking about, Nastasia, the father. Yeah, this is interesting. Ah, I'm tempted to go on a tangent there, but I'm gonna, this is a perfect example. As you guys, I'm just going to plant the seed. As you guys have symbols or messages, anything that's coming through for you as a archetypal symbol of meaning, if you want to share anything that's coming through you as I'm talking, please drop it in the chat. And I always think of the chat as kind of like a little cauldron of collective energy that we're building. And so I can feel into that and see, we all get to feel each other and kind of see if there's any common threads happening. Because this is also an aspect of the Temple of Wow is tracking the holy wow moments. So I'm going to introduce this concept to you guys, and we're going to just do a little reflection check-in before I begin, or as I begin. The two founding principles of the Temple of Wow and the ways that we track magic. First of all, I'm going to say my tenet when it comes to my spiritual practice that came through for me. I apprenticed with the Pachacuti Mesa tradition in 2022, which is a cross-cultural Andean shamanic altar working practice. And the concept of the altar is that we are working in sacred relationship with the different elemental forces and different beings in the unseen world to develop a more clarified relationship with our own souls through the medicine and magic of our hearts. So the center of the altar is our heart, representing our unique self, soul in the world. And then surrounding that, just as it is in life, are all of the different directions with the different elemental spirits that are working in collaboration, ideally, with our souls on this plane. And as I worked with this practice, which is basically invoking and consecrating different sacred items, this is kind of what we do with altar work. And I have a lot of stuff I'm looking forward to teaching and guiding about altar work in the months to come. But just a quick kind of overview is what we do is we consecrate different items to make them sacred. And then we work with them and we feed them and we clean them and we show up in relationship to these items as representations that are activated with these spiritual energies. And as I worked with this practice, I started to feel this fundamental principle, which was love makes things sacred. Attention gives them power. Attention gives them power. And I felt this through experience because I noticed that what was once a mundane object that had no power and no significance to me, as soon as I made it sacred, consecrate it, that's the meaning of to make sacred, I started to feel connected to it. It had power for me. And the more attention that I gave it, the more precious it became. The more that the love built, the more love was generated, the more we got to communicate with one another through that object. So when it comes to working with the unseen world, which is, kind of the world of what we would consider magic, it's beyond logic, it's beyond measurement in many ways, although I think magic can be measured sometimes once it's really activated. But when it comes to the world of the unseen, which is, we are really dealing with mystery here. Like today, fundamentally, with God, there's a big ongoing human conversation. When we say the word God, we're in so many ways trying to figure it out. This thing that we all sense, this force, this presence, this loving source point that we all sense, and we all kind of, across cultures, across time, across generations, we feel it to be a presence. We feel it to be true. And we're doing our very best to figure out what that mystery is all about, what's the real truth of it. And it's this sort of untouchable, unnameable thing. So we are dealing with mystery. And when it comes to mystery, we're working with the unseen. It means we don't understand it. And so as soon as we can understand something and label it and feel like we've got it figured out, there's no more mystery, right? And we love that. Our egos love that. They want to understand, they want to figure it out. And it's actually the beautiful function of our mind. Our mind is here to solve problems. And there's a rich pleasure in that. It's an aspect of the human experience that it's part of the game, right? It's like we're here to play the game of life and to, you know, figure out the evidence, the clues, and put the puzzle together, solve the problems, solve the equation. And we don't like it, we have this gorgeous paradox within us that's like we want to figure it out all the time, and our minds are wired for that. And at the same time, if we had it all figured out, there'd be no game to play. So there's something really fun and beautiful about the not knowing. And I've found that in the not knowing, in the humility, in the surrender of just like bowing to the mystery and what I don't know, this gorgeous conversation starts to happen with the divine. But when it comes to the mystery, to go back to consecration and love, making things sacred and attention, giving them power, we can't, it helps our mind be a bridge for this conversation with the mystery to have symbol that represents the ineffable. And so we're going to talk a bit about dream work today. There's no getting around that. But what are the symbols, the psyches, the symbols, the signs, the messages coming through in our psyche through dreams, through the waking dream, through repeating patterns or surprising novel experiences that are happening in our lives that are helping us enter this conversation with the mystery and discover more about what we don't yet know. And when it comes to that, we build sacred relationship with symbols and signs to represent these higher powers, these archetypal forces, and these divine energies that we can't see, but we sense, right? So with the Temple of the Holy Wow, our tenet is going to be love makes things sacred, attention gives them power. And with that, we have ways to track the experiences in our lives to give more power with our attention to wonder, to magic, to that sense, that elevating, expansive, hopeful sense of a divine presence that we've all tasted. And sometimes it penetrates our awareness. But often when we're so preoccupied with life and everything's so noisy and the mind's got it all figured out and the mind knows what's coming next, there's not a lot of space to make contact with those subtle messages that come from the mystery that bring us back into wonder, which to me, I'm going to propose for us, might be a really big clue that we're in a direct experience with what I feel to be God, what you might feel to be the divine, what you might feel to be the mystery, what you might call magic. And these experiences I've categorized into two different kind of frames, which I think are fun. The first one is a holy wow moment, and I've shared this with a few of you on the call. Our holy wows are the synchronicities. They're the times when we see, we have a recurrent pattern, for example, or, and, it comes up a couple of times and then we start to notice, right? It's like something warbles in the ordinary flow of reality and something pops out in our attention. And then it happens again. And then we're like, that's strange. And then it happens a third time. And that's when the wow comes in and we go, whoa, no way. I just saw that. I just dreamt about that. I just felt that. I just opened, that book to that page and it had that symbol and there it is, right over there. Or maybe we think of somebody that we haven't talked to in years or haven't thought of in years, and all of a sudden they reach out to us. And it's like, no way. Like, I was just thinking about you. What is that? And so there's a lot coming up in the collective right now around telepathy. Like, we're all starting to get, I don't know if we're all, maybe all are like, what are you talking about? But with the channels of communication we have right now, like podcasts, for example, there's a podcast now called the Telepathy Tapes. Hi, Andrea. Yay. Um, there's a podcast called the Telepathy Tapes that's kind of bringing this like woo-woo esoteric perspective of, maybe we have the power to transfer thought through telepathy. Like it's a part of our human superpowers. And that's kind of coming forward through these podcasts that are getting more mainstream. So we're seeing some of these mystical mysteries sort of penetrate into the mainstream. But that would categorize into a holy wow, right? Where it's like, how did you know I was just thinking about that? Or how did you just feel me? Did you feel me? Or we have a dream about somebody and then they call us the next day. All of these little moments that make us go, wow. So those are our holy wows. And then we have a bigger picture experience, which I'm calling masterpiece moments. And I just published my poetry book, as many of you know. I named it Ridiculous Masterpiece, which was, of course, a cheeky, fun thing to do with my book because it's my masterpiece and I love it and I'm proud of it. But what it really means and what it really represents is this sacred principle of life where the whole experience as a tapestry of moments over time, no matter how painful, how impossible, how confusing, how tragic, it suddenly will have a moment where it coalesces into such profound beauty that every part of it suddenly makes sense. That it all creates a bigger picture that's so much more beautiful for all of the moments where it made no sense at all. That's the ridiculous part. Like, what? No way. It was really all happening for a reason. And chances are we'll have a few of those moments in our lives. And sometimes they will be few and far between, right? Years will pass before we feel the masterpiece moment. But when they come, those are the points that anchor our faith in such a big way that it can carry us through any suffering that we encounter to follow. And then we'll have another moment of forgetting, but we'll remember. We'll forget and we'll forget and we'll forget. But over time, through the masterpiece moments, we'll learn that we love to remember. And that's part of the ridiculous masterpiece too. So just to start to kind of build our beautiful collective energy field, let's take a moment and reflect in and just trace back. Maybe you can bring your hand to your heart. We can take a deep breath together. Coming in through the nose, falling out of the front of the mind with my great gratitude for you listening to me and being here. Filling up the body with that fresh life force energy, that crazy miracle of the oxygen that we get to breathe. Like, what? Falling out of the front of the mind and exhaling and dropping into the heart. And relaxing into yourself for a moment. And feeling this relationship with your own inner mystery, the mystery of you, one of the primary mysteries, one of the most beautiful, ridiculous masterpieces that we'll ever encounter is how, why am I here like this? What am I made of? What is my purpose? What is it all for? Feeling just the relationship with our own mystery. Taking another deep breath in. Really expanding and filling the body and letting it kind of move and relax into this space, letting go of any tension that's being clenched onto or carried over from previous moments or from last night's sleep. And filling up with a little more fresh morning air on this beautiful Saturday, 2025. We're just going to exhale with a sigh, making a little sound so you can hear and feel yourself. feeling the sacredness of this moment. This is every moment is our living opportunity to experience the wonder of what it means to be here in this form at this time. And first and foremost, just having an honest attunement with yourself. How does life feel for you right now? How does it feel to be in your skin with your mystery? What is your relationship with the sensation of living in this moment? And how do you feel about that relationship? Going back even deeper into the witness of the self and the self's relationship with body, with soul, with life. You might touch something a little tender. You might notice some vibrations of very subtle fear, uncertainty, or maybe just not totally grounded presence. Maybe it's been a while since you've checked in here or really brought your attention to it. And taking another deep breath to kind of just exhaling any judgment that's arising in your observation of this relationship. Exhaling and relaxing into your humanity, which will by nature not always be present like this with yourself. Nothing is broken. Yet here we are in an opportunity to bring our attention onto this relationship with what it means to be alive and how it feels to be alive. So, from this place of intimacy and honesty, I'm just going to check in with a couple of questions for your heart. One is feeling into, what does God feel like to me? You guys have got to hear me speak about some of my aspects of relationship there. What does God feel like to you? Maybe God doesn't even feel like the true word for you. Do you have a true word that feels good in your heart and in your body? It's kind of going through the different names for the unnameable. Maybe it's Jesus, Christ, Mother, Great Spirit, Universe, Higher Self, Source, Cosmos. Maybe it's something different. Maybe you get to create your own name for this beautiful, loving presence, this original energy. Maybe it's Father, as Nastasia put into the cauldron earlier. Maybe all of those names ring true, and maybe there's not yet a name. So what we're going to do as we move forward is feel for resonance. Feel for resonance within yourself. That tuning fork that harmonizes with the concept, harmonizes with the word. That alignment. So we can be wholehearted and honest with our practice, with our prayer, with our devotion. Breathing into that, whatever you found there with that question, We love the questions and the mystery. It's like our torch. So we're going to then travel kind of into the mind's eye, staying connected with the heart, but we're going to use our inner vision to reflect, feeling very much still connected to the heart. You can stay in the heart if you want to, but allowing and opening the inner vision, or as we also might call it, our imagination, our dreamer. And we're going to reflect recently. Can you trace back to the last time you felt a holy wow? What was your last wow moment? Maybe it was really recent. Maybe it takes a little bit of time to find it. So we're going to sit here for a moment in silence and we're going to trace this. We're going to pull the threads, tie them together. What are we finding? Hmm. Bringing the awareness to the breath entering the nostrils. Bringing all of the presence onto this relationship with the breath and the way that it travels almost seemingly directly into the heart as it fills our lungs. Just going to breathe into that wow. And just feel your relationship with the divine. How does it feel to try on the perspective that that divine power orchestrated that holy wow moment just to get you to notice? How does it feel to try that on? If you can connect to it, you might feel yourself kind of smile. You might notice a little bit of hope or wonder rising in your heart. And you also might notice something like doubt come up and try to prevent you from running that experiment, from trying that on. You might notice a little constriction start to happen. And you might notice a voice coming up saying, no, 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 that was just a coincidence. That's not real. Just noticing for any protective constriction around opening the heart into that wonder. And if you don't feel it, wonderful. You do not have to create it for yourself. But if you do feel it, just notice. Maybe you can bring a little touch to your body and relieve any tension that's arising there and kind of rub and comfort the heart, the body, soothe anything that's happening, help the energy stay open and flow. And we're also just going to tune in here before we come back to this space and have another moment of honesty around meaning making. So when we have a wow, a holy wow moment, a symbol, a message, a magical feeling experience, we may or may not create some meaning around it. We may want it to mean something, or we may sense that it means something for us. So we're just going to tune in with honesty here to in our intuitive sensing, before the thoughts, before the logic. Is there anything arising in this beautiful, holy wow moment, a thread of meaning that you can touch? Feels like maybe the message from the divine for you, or an affirmation or a nudge, maybe even a little challenge or a dare. Like, hey, I dare you to trust this. Go for it. What did that symbol mean to you? What would you dare to let it maybe mean to you? And finally, taking a breath into that and feeling if there is a visual in your mind's, your inner vision, your mind's eye. Is there a visual symbol, a shape, a word, a number, a animal, a being, a color, anything that represents your wow? And if you could take that meaning that you touched and bring it into one word, what would that word be? And you don't need to make it make sense. It can make no sense to you. This can be a feeling or an experience from a long time ago. It can seem insignificant. We're just going to feed it our attention and really thread it down into this moment. So with that, give yourself another breath, rub your heart, maybe tap yourself back out into the front of your body, staying open, staying connected into the heart and into your inner imagination. And just take a moment to write down anything that you touched and anything that felt significant for you about inquiring around that. First for yourself, and then I would love for you guys to share a symbol and a word that came up for you with your holy wow in the chat if you feel inspired. I'm going to light us a prayer candle as you take those notes. Mm. Beautiful, beautiful threads coming in. Amazing. Mm-mm-mm. Okay, I'm going to start reading some of these aloud. Please keep, oh, amazing. Actually, hold on. I'm going to keep reading this. Wow. Mm, mm, mm. Right. So I'm going to read through these. If you have more that you want to share, please keep dripping things in here. Okay, we have a hawk with the word trust, seashell and divine orchestration, a window, gold threads of honey, him, the tear, two pairs of hands, one set, masculine, welcoming the feminine to hold them, the word allow, a fully opened flower, you are so loved. A priestess, an ancient goddess with a goat head on a human body. Woo, amazing. A memory of sunset sparkling on the oceans and dolphins swimming past. A sense of inherent beauty. Sacred spiral, rippling. Create. Love and Morogos, but I have no idea what Morogos means. Very cool. I love that. Excuse me. Okay. Feel free to keep dripping things in as you want to bring them into the manifest a little bit more. That's how we give them a little bit more power. We honor them, bring them forward. And something just to try on here. We're just going to let that steep like a bag of tea and we're going to keep flowing. But something just to try on here is as you start to notice these symbols, senses, words, visions, um, animal teachers, goddesses, dream words that don't make sense. For me, when I have these profound energies penetrate my ordinary consciousness enough, I often start to turn towards them like a teacher. So a symbol or a sign, or as you guys may know, if you do dream work or a dream image, can become a profound teacher for us. And a way that we can honor this is through kind of doing this dream work of threading this down into the manifest and creating focal points through altar work or sacred items where we can honor the gift we're being given and come sit with it and bring our attention towards it and cue our psyche to be in conversation with it a little bit more by choosing something that represents this energy to have on the altar of our attention. So I'm going to get into attention here because this call, our first call in the Temple of Wow, is called Get God to Notice. And the frame I want to offer for us is that when we are taken by an experience, a message, a symbol, etc., that is God. And I'm going to use God as kind of this, that feels true for me, but I want you to just interpret this in the way that feels good for you and true for you with that word that you touched in our meditation of what feels like God to me. So when we receive these striking moments, for example, I've had so many, I've since Hawk was the first thing that somebody shared here, I still remember a moment where I had a really profound striking dream about a friend of mine who I wasn't super close with, hadn't talked to in a while, and I had a dream that she had an abusive husband who was abusing her and her son. And um, when I woke up, he told me his name in the dream. And when I woke up, I reached out to her and I said, I had this strange dream. I dreamt of this guy and I said his name and he looked like this. And she said, oh my God, that was my ex-husband's name. He died a few years ago. And I remember where I was. I remember looking up in the sky and there was a hawk flying over my car as I was getting on the freeway. And I had just seen her text message and I was like, whoa, what is going on here? There's no way I could have known that, right? That was a moment where God, like my perception is I was shaken out of my concept of what was possible, what it means to be human, like what is really possible here. There was no way for me that the specificity of that name, the way he looked in the dream, she confirmed. I've never seen a photo of him. I've never heard her talk about him. It was a previous, years ago relationship that she's only vaguely alluded to, and I hadn't talked to her in a long time. So this is a moment where God, it felt to me, got me to notice. And whether or not that had to do with her specifically, probably a little bit, that's my interpretation, but it's getting kind of into dream work interpretation. What does this mean for me, right? That God got me to notice this way, that I had this. For me, I looked up, I saw the hawk. I thought of the broader, higher perspective, the perspective beyond my perspective. What's possible? What's really going on here? And in a way, whether or not that had to do with my friend and something specific with our relationship, the gift of that moment was God got me to notice that there is something bigger going on with what's possible in our psyches and our connective field and the way that we transfer information for each other and the way that we feel each other. And so when God gets us to notice, we have these moments of magic that can bring us into a spiritual development process. We can become students to them. And what I'm going to posture for us today, or postulate for us today, is that we are in a two-way conversation with God. And that when we have these experiences, often for us, because we have these very limited, whether it's conscious or not, we are imprinted with a lot of limiting beliefs about our capacity for magic, our potential as human beings, what's possible in quote unquote reality. And we often default to a passive relationship with the divine. We say prayers occasionally. We hope for miracles. We wait for something to come and be a miracle that surprises us. We wait to be saved. We wait to be shaken out of our fear. We wait for God to get us to notice. And when God doesn't do that enough for long enough, we get more and more and more hardened in the story that's in the default program that we were born to download here. And so what I want for us to do in this circle today is to start to open our end of the conversation. To get God to notice is to change it up in this field of the autopilot that we are in, to do something and offer something novel that sort of warbles that field of reality, to participate, to no longer be passive participants in the field of miracles and magic, but to start to do our part. Because from what I'm seeing in my own personal life and in the collective right now is that the energy of distraction, the energy of co-opting, the whether or not we're going to set all the conspiracy theories aside for the sake of the magic, whether or not this is intentional or, it's spiritual warfare, it's mental, hijacking by intent, or it's a greater force than we can even grok, right? What matters is we are overwhelmed and bombarded by noise, and we are overwhelmed and bombarded in the crossfire of emotional energy that is often generated from fear and rooted in vigilance and rooted in separation. And this noise obstructs our capacity most of the time to be open to the divine guidance, like the hawk that's flying over, like the dream, like even recalling the dream, even sitting with the dream. As human beings, not so long ago, we used to have lots of time for just sitting in presence and contemplating what it meant to be human. The devotees in different, spiritual traditions, contemplation has been a primary aspect of our evolutionary process. We don't need to contemplate anymore, which is kind of terrifying because anything that we want to quote unquote figure out or know or learn, we just get on ChatGPT, we just get on Google, the information's right there. We don't have to do it ourselves. We don't have to source wisdom from within anymore. It's all right there at our fingertips, stimulating. And we have a massive, I'm part of it. I'm saying this as somebody who's recognizing the impact it's having in my life. We have a devastating and immeasurable so far sweeping sonic boom of dopamine addiction, hyperstimulation, constant inundation happening in our channel. So our bodies are instruments of receptivity, electromagnetic receptive instruments being able to receive and also emanate electromagnetic emotional messages, telepathic, if you want to call it that, psychic information. We can feel and connect with one another on a quantum level. All of this has been measured and tracked in science. And it's really palpable in our spiritual paths. But we have a lot of interference. So, what we need to do in order to reclaim our direct relationship with the divine that's trying to guide us, trying to speak to us, trying to offer us the relief of wonder. Wow, the holy wow. So, we have to do our part to clear that interference through will, through desire, through love, to attune ourselves to be open to receive the messages. And my theory, based on what I experienced and worked with a couple of years ago, is that when we get God to notice, when we do our part, when we are not passive to try to wait for the miracles to happen to us, God will meet us exponentially. We will experience, it might not be immediate. And this is something I want us to really track for is we are, I feel, as I was feeling into this call, I feel we are in this space of sort of being the children of this fallout of the scientific method and the justice system, which both of them are evidence-based. So we are so wired to look for evidence that's based on good or bad, possible or not possible, right? And we have so much preceded information about what's possible. We are not even playing anymore in the game of what don't we know yet, right? It's like we just got born into this world that already had it all figured out. We had all these systems, and we are projecting our expectation of the evidence that we think is going to validate the reality that we feel safe in because it's known. So this is a really important time to be aware, to fall back into our mystical conversation with the divine and reclaim this conversation, reclaim this direct relationship where we can feel that resonance in the tuning fork of what's true, because things are getting muddy out there, right? There's a ton of propaganda. There's a ton of, there are things already. It's been an exponential leap. I feel, passionate and sometimes really afraid because we can't even really discern what's real anymore. And where our attention is going, our attention gives things power. Where our attention is going is full of, it's a hall of mirrors. It's like, what's real? What's true? So our divine responsibility here in the Temple of Wow, from a place of joy, from a place of wonder, from a place of enthusiasm and empowerment, is to clean and attune ourselves through the resonance of truth within our hearts, to be open and receptive to that divine guidance that is going to cut through all of the distortion. We need more people to be able to do this. And I'm not a master. I forget all the time. That's why I called this gathering, this prayer for today. Tomorrow, I like to work with, so I'm going to talk to you guys about a few tools for getting God to notice. We want to step into our relationship, our conversation with the divine, not from a passive place, but from a creative place, right? So, one of the foundational pieces we can start to add value to is first and foremost getting more aware of if attention gives things power. I hope you guys can resonate with this. I really can. If I focus on anything, if I focus on what my partner's not doing right, well, that just gets louder and louder and louder and louder and louder. Now, is it true? Is it real? Am I right? Doesn't matter. It has power over me. The story has power over me. The story influences how I experience and perceive love. It influences my quality of life. So, what we're really talking about here is on some level, perhaps, yes, it also gives things power. I mean, if let's say you're this is just coming to the top of my head, but you're in a nightclub and somebody's dancing and everyone starts turning towards her and she's fed by the attention, giving that power. It's like it's giving energy to the dance. Now, if you dance and nobody notices you and nobody's paying attention and you're by yourself, hopefully that still feels really good and you're having the time of your life and you're giving your own attention to your own dance. But we can kind of track this socially, the way that attention gives things power externally. Same goes for conflicts, fights, etc., conversations. If there's no audience, there's a lot less power and charge going into that occurrence. However, what's really important for us is what are we giving our power away to? What are we putting our attention on and focusing and feeding at the altar of our hearts, at the altar of our minds? It's front and center. We might encounter this through rumination, through fear, through projecting based on evidence from the past what we expect to happen next. And then this funny thing happens where, lo and behold, what we feared comes true, right? So, what do we want to worship with our attention? What do you want out of what's the life experience you want, right? When we're waiting for God to bring in the miracle, when we're waiting for God to answer the prayer, there's usually the heartbeat of a desire, right? Maybe we want for the world to feel safer for all beings. Maybe we want to feel financially secure. Maybe we want to feel safe. Maybe we want to feel seen and feel loved. So, a big part of this when we're working with putting our prayer together is clarifying desire. There's always going to be one layer of the desire that is the symbol for the feeling, right? And that might look very specific. God, I really want help. Please help me get this job. And right now, the job is the symbol for the feeling, right? Or I really want this to work with this one person. And right now, that person is the symbol for the feeling, for the experience. So, whatever the symbol is that awakens that desire in you, work with that. But then beneath the symbol of that desire is a deeper core desire. It's something that we want to feel. And what we might find is that what we're worshiping, what we're actually giving power to, is the opposite feeling of the feeling that we desire, right? It's like if I'm constantly putting my attention on how much money I don't have, if I'm constantly putting my attention on how impossible it feels to help the world, how far past, how far gone we are, like nothing's going to help. If that's my fear, if that's my focus, that's the feeling I'm worshiping. So we're wanting to clarify, what do I want to worship? Do I want to experience more beauty, more pleasure? Do I want to feel more connected? Do I want to feel more wonder? Do I want to be amazed by life every day? Do I want to be able to exude that everywhere I go so I can bless other people with the possibility of this wonder? Like, help me, God, awaken that in me. Help me put that on the altar of my attention every day. Help me put it front and center so I can feed it. The greatest offering we can give is our attention, because that's how we spend our time, which is probably our most precious resource, is our time. We're temporal, we are mortal. And this awareness of our mortality generates, I was feeling into this as a new emergent truth for me this morning as I was brushing my teeth. Was fear creates urgency, safety creates timelessness. That was what arose. And a different word for safety would be trust. So our second magic ingredient is trust. Where are we placing our attention? How can we bring trust in? Now, this is really tricky, right? Because we have all the evidence from the past that might not be willing to disarm itself and trust that something else could be possible, right? So this might be a dance that we're in for a while, but we do want to put trust on the altar if we want to generate the miracle frequency, if we want to be able to create something new out of nothing, maybe. Maybe the past never gave us any evidence for why we should trust life. But what if we could start now? What if we could suddenly have the evidence that we need to write a new story? Thank you for sharing that. Sorry, just tuning in here. Oh, beautiful, Drea. Yes. Yeah. So, and to take this a little bit deeper into one of our tools that we're going to use for getting God to notice is thinking about what is the outcome of fear creating urgency, safety, and trust creating timelessness. Well, what do we do when we're in urgency? We react to life. It's survival is reactive. It's automatic reactivity, automatic reactivity. If we're feeling anxious, fearful, worried, right? We're going to immediately go into the survival instinct of what do I need to do right now as soon as possible to feel safe again. It's not creative. Now, what do we do when we're in timelessness, flow state? We're creating, right? So fear creates urgency, creates reactivity. Trust creates timelessness, allows for creativity. So how do we bring that in? We bring creativity into our prayer. We bring creativity into our conversation with God. And so one of the ways we can do this is we get creative about what we offer. And this is the fun part, is when we get a synchronicity from God where it captures our attention. Usually a distinguishing factor or feature of this is that it's novel, it's unexpected. It's out of the ordinary. And we're like, that, I didn't see that coming. It must have significance. So one of the ways I like to play with my devotion, which I think is the most wholehearted way I've found to be in devotion, is it has to be creative. It has to be playful for me. Otherwise, it's just not all of my life force isn't present with it, right? When we're in flow state, when we're in creativity, our inner child's in the room, our eros is in the room, we are out of fear, we're out of time, suspended and liberated into a field of freedom that's not worried about death. It's not gathering evidence for what we can protect ourselves against. It's in divine power. Is I do something different. I do something novel. I break the pattern because every time I'm in reactivity, I'm in a constant unconscious pattern that's just churning and churning and churning and churning and churning and churning. So we can create pattern interrupts. It's a long, elaborate buildup to pattern interrupts. We have this creative option in every moment to break the pattern of what we always do and what we think we should do or we think we have to do, to choose, which is a creative act, to choose what we will do, to onboard our willpower into creativity, into playfulness. And so another frame I like to think about for this, that's been really helpful for me, and this may or may not feel true for you, and but I think it's useful. And so I'm just going to offer a personification. A lot of people on Instagram do not really like me talking about God or saying that that human beings have that we're God or anything like that. And this basically I feel like it's helpful for me. For one, I believe that we are made of God, and I that's just my personal belief. I imagine you guys feel open to that because you're here. So I imagine we're in resonance there, that we all know we might have some, really, really human parts and some shadows and shit like that, but we're the essence of who we are and the nature of ourselves is divine. And what's really activated magic for me in my life is when I relate to God through relationship. So a frame, maybe a spicy take, is how am I going to romance God, right? Like think about courtship. Think about, us ladies in the room, we might not have had to step forward like this as much as men, but when you're trying to get someone to notice you and win them over and get their attention, what do? You get their attention, right? You dress up, you make sure you look good. You might think about what they would love to receive. You might pay attention to what they like and what brings them joy. And you might, buy them a little secret admirer gift or take them on a special date, take them to somewhere that they might love and enjoy a lot, right? So this is a way of capturing attention in intimacy in relationship where um, the natural world mirrors the spiritual world. Like we can play with this frame, right? Yes, God flirts back. There we go. There we're entering the zone. So whether we're doing it for the divine, like God, here I am. I prepared this gift for you. I made this beautiful altar. I bought you all these roses. Like I'm going to sing you a song today. Or I'm going to dance in, the mirror for you, God. And like thinking about praise, right? It's like, an offering is we're giving a gift. And that, of course, we could argue and feel probably some resonance that tends to get God to notice. We can also do that for ourselves. We can also be the one that's going to set ourselves up for a beautiful experience for the God within, right? We might set ourselves up to be surprised. So something I do occasionally when I have the presence of mind and when I'm inspired enough is I will create beauty and reminders around my house that gets the God in me to notice. It breaks through the noise of Caitlyn self, fear Caitlyn, scarcity Caitlyn, survival mode Caitlyn, reacting, reacting, reacting. The creative Caitlyn, who's in timelessness, is the God. And when I get to penetrate the noise of the aspect of myself that's obscuring that connection by inspiring it forward, I immediately enter into that creative frequency. My heart opens. I feel, wow. Ah. And so we have these hacks, and everyone's going to have different ones. But what are the novel acts that are gifts of courtship to your own soul, to your creative self? What are the novel gestures of romance that you can set up in your own life to awaken your attention back into relationship with the divine? and experimenting in both directions. How does it feel to get the divine in me to notice? And how does it feel to make offerings to the greater divine, the all, the God, that's interconnected with all things? And what are the areas where this comes to life for me most? So for you, for myself, for example, I have some outdoor spaces that I set up to bring my attention in my yard into a divine presence, right? And sometimes nature itself will be the altar. Like I just need to get my God self to rise, to get myself to notice, and to get God to notice me. It might be coming into nature every day and being in the holy wow with really bringing my attention to like, what? Like, look at this beautiful lizard that lives in my front yard, and I'm gonna name him Leonidas. Like, and then I'm gonna say hi to Leonidas every time I go outside. And then I remember and I smile and I laugh and I'm in the joy of relationship. So prayer, moving into prayer, I love to make the concept of prayer more dynamic because a lot of us, if we were born into a path with religion, some of the prayers we were given were prescriptive. It wasn't coming from the heart. It wasn't a creative. It was just like, here's what you say, and here's how you say it, and here's how many times you say it. And if you don't say it enough times, then you're not forgiven for your sins, and you need to say it some more. And then you need to go to this priest, and they'll forgive you for not saying it. And we just didn't get a good map to create wholehearted prayers. And one thing I will offer is that I feel that divine connection open up, and I've always, since I was a little girl, I called it the God feeling. It was like this warmth of presence, this warmth of loving presence that would come in when I would pray with my heart, not with my mind, not with my memory, but being in the conversation with God, being in a conversation. So one of my teachers, that she shared something with me a while back that's been really, really impactful for me. And she said to me, I've shared this in a couple of calls. She said to me, God just wants your honesty. And I thought, oh my gosh, what a relief. You know, I don't have to like fix myself before I go talk to God. I can just be honest. Whoa. And sure enough, when she reminded me of that, and I got back in my altar and I started having my prayers, and I just came correct. I came honest. I came true. And I just like, here I am. There's a beautiful hymn actually from my Catholic church. Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? Oh, it just came back to me last week, and I wept because I felt myself coming back home to Christ and to like my roots in this new way that I had abandoned so many decades ago. But that's the essence, that's the vulnerability of when you're really in a relationship that's safe. It's intimate. You get to be who you are. You get to sit down in front of this person that you trust and bare your soul. God doesn't want our performance, right? I mean, maybe God wants our like, okay, we got two categories of performance. If it's like, if it's us performing our poetry or dancing with our full spirit and our hearts open and all of our aliveness, God loves that. But pretending and saying hollow words the right way, it does not have the magic of the truth. So everywhere in a world where truth is hard to feel, what is going to get God to notice in other human beings and in the collective and in the upper dimensions more than honesty? Radical honesty, becoming more and more devoted to being who you authentically are, to being brave with your pain, brave with your wounds, brave with your hopes and your dreams and your desires, being vulnerable. And so when we come to our prayer, we are doing a magical act because the implicit agreement is I am sitting down here like a quote unquote crazy person, and I'm going to have the most intimate, honest, playful, earnest conversation with a force that nobody can explain and that I can't see. And that's beautiful, right? And that brings you into conversation with yourself. It's such an everyday, ordinary, undervalued access point to this divine force is prayer. And sometimes it can feel really like charged to say that word. Like it might have a lot of dogma around it for you, depending on your relationship with that word. So another frame is getting into a relationship with the unseen world, getting into a dialogue with the divine. If we do that consistently, if we do that even once, you might notice ripples of magic start to happen, especially if you never do it. The more novel, the more disruptive, the more power that creative choice has in your life. So, prayer. And when we come to pray, one of the things I have learned, so I have learned some frames for prayers that have been helpful. I've learned some frames for prayers that have not been helpful that I've had to unlearn. And I've learned some frames for prayers that have been helpful. And one of them was a frame by George Bertelstein in his book, A Clear and Simple Prayer, which is what we're going to bring our call today to a close with. And we're going to lead with gratitude. Now, this is, nothing that you guys haven't heard already about the power of gratitude. We know this. And nevertheless, it's well known for a reason. It opens the heart, it reconnects us to abundance, it reconnects us to trust. And so when we think about being in relationship with somebody else, I want us to this is the useful frame for having this personified relationship with God. Imagine you're God right now and nobody can see you and you're just everywhere and you're all up high and you got, I'm just seeing Zoe right here. So you've got a relationship with Zoe. You love Zoe and you just want to help her and she's going through her, she's this new journey. She's on this new adventure, new chapter in her life. And you're watching her and you've been watching her for a long time. You've been trying to send her messages. You've been trying to help, been trying to like guide her path. She's like so preoccupied with figuring it out herself. And she knows you already because she's talked to you before. But for some reason, she hasn't even talked to you in 2 years. I'm just making this up. This okay. We could also use Caitlyn because I haven't gone 2 years by any means, but I feel this in myself, right? And so I start a relationship with God. I start a conversation, have the conversation, and then I forget for a huge chunk of time. And then when I finally remember, it's like, oh my God, I need something. I'm stressed out. I'm terrified. Like, I don't know what to do. I suddenly turn towards that relationship and I'm like, please, please, please help me, give me, give me, give me. But meanwhile, every day, God has been making all of this possible. God has been providing the air to breathe, the water in the body, the food that nourishes, the shelter over the head, even the little challenges that have developed our character and deepened our wisdom. God has been providing and providing. Imagine a real relationship with another person that provided that much and you didn't say thank you every freaking day. Like, I mean, I'm just thinking about like even with Eric, if I went 2 months without ever saying thank you for a single thing, our relationship would be in a bad state, right? And when we talk about God's unconditional love, this is the nature of it. All it takes is for us to turn back towards it with an honest and open heart and say, thank you. I remember. I love you. I want to be in a relationship with this universe. I am open to all the stars and all the cosmic forces and all the unseen powers that are waiting and willing to aid me. Oh, thank you to the spirit of water that nourishes and quenches and just flows through every aspect of aliveness here on this planet. Oh, thank you to the sun that rises without obligation, rises so consistently, so trustfully every single morning to generate life on this earth. Thank you for the provision. Thank you for all that you give me. And when we say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, the abundance frequency that we root ourselves in the true abundance and we become abundance. And then we magnetize the electromagnetic field of abundance. And so George Bertelstein's framework for a clear and simple prayer was you always start with thank you. Because we're not saying thank you constantly, but we could be. We really could be. There's always something to be grateful for. And so if we imagine ourselves, it always helps me to use this frame, whether or not it's true, to imagine God as this divine, significant other that I am in a relationship with. I have a relationship I want to tend. I want to nourish it. I want to be in right relationship with it. And as we practice in any direction, whether that's with the elements or with God or with even inanimate objects. So I do this with my house a lot, and it kind of brings the house to life. The house starts to get power and become sacred, but I will look at it like a being and I'll just be like, thank you. I love you. Like you're taking care of me. You are protecting me. You are holding me like a baby while I develop. And like building sacred relationship will unlock so much magic. So whether you do that with an sacred item or your home or your partner, which is also a vessel of the divine, or God, God's self, or yourself, this will be a huge, huge shift. And when we come to a sacred place, it helps us to be mindful of what are we offering. If we're going to ask for help, this has been a timeless journey, a timeless relationship with like for just the vast majority of human history, there's been this instinct of sacrifice, an instinct of making an offering, giving a gift. Now, sacrifice was a framework that probably was misused a lot of times. I don't know for sure. I'm not going to pretend I know everything about anything, but I think there's, we have some pretty archaic and kind of shocking historical records of what human beings have done to make sacrifices to the gods, so to speak. But there's the heart of that I think we can bring in some compassion just looking at our ancestors and thinking, okay, in their relationship with the divine forces, there was a felt sense that I need to bring you something of value to me. Now, nowadays, in this more enlightened age, where we have more compassion for all life and there's not the same kind of objectification of life that we had in earlier ancestral times, we can still bring in the spirit of making an offering of great value. And the higher that value it is, it might become a sacrifice. So if time is our most precious resource as temporal beings, one of the simplest ways of creating magic through making an offering is to offer our time, especially when we feel like we are being pulled in all of these different directions and we're super busy. It's like, can I recognize? And when when we give our intention to it with our attention, if we choose, it can empower us into this relationship and this magic. If we choose, I'm going to give 30 minutes, my first 30 minutes, right? Maybe that's like a big value piece for you. I'm going to give my first 30 minutes to God. I'm going to give an hour every day to God. That would be even more of that value, right? And then also, if we do it instead of reacting to life, and we give it before we go to the email inbox or the Instagram or the text messages, and we give it first, it increases the value of the offering. So our presence, our attention, and our time with the intention of it being an offering is a gorgeous gift to give to your soul, to give to the divine, to say thank you. Here's my sacrifice. I'm going to surrender and give you this much of my time and my attention. And when I give you my attention, I give you power. I feed you. I feed you in the world, right? So there's also creative offerings we can make. And this is something that I'm going to be inviting us to do here at the end of the call, which is coming up soon. We want to start to create, as the artists that we are, offerings of ritual devotion that bring us into wholehearted presence, that create this sacred courtship with God, founded on trust, founded on timelessness, founded on safety, founded on our willingness to participate in the miracle. And so what might that look like without me telling you? Right? Because I have a suggestion, but I'm not going to suggest it yet. Start to feel, where would you feel the most alive in your devotion? Right? Because your aliveness, the life force, whatever is going to get you to be intimately, joyfully present with God is going to be the best energy you can bring to the altar of your prayer. Can be the best energy you bring to this relationship. So for you, that might be every day for a certain period of time, or one time a week, always on this day, always at this time, I'm going to go into nature here because I feel so alive. Or it might be, I'm going to ecstatic dance every morning, and I'm going to do it while I'm on my walk in my neighborhood. And I'm going to let everybody see me in my joy. That's very disruptive, right? I'm going to just throw it out there that the more you can surprise the world around you with joy, with love, with something unexpected, the more powerful your devotion will be for you and for the world. So think about when you see somebody, I saw, where was it? Yes, on the trail. I went on a walk yesterday on the trail with one of my friends. And we hear this whimsical flute in the distance. And there is a guy on his bike with a hat with a bunch of rainbow pom-poms. And he doesn't have his hands on the handlebars. He's like cruising and pedaling, and he's got a whimsical flute. And he's like, just going down the trail. And I'm like, how did I not end up like that guy? Like, why am I in my house all the time, like stressing about setting up Zoom calls and responding to emails and Slacks? And like, I could be out there just playing a whimsical flute, and I'm not. Like, where did I go wrong? You know? So what, like, that got God's notice for me. The part in me that's creative, the part in me that's in wow, it wasn't a synchronicity, but it was a holy wow. That's possible, right? So we get to think outside of the box here. Our homework assignment is going to have to do with our homework assignment that you never have to turn in, but I hope that you'll tell me how it goes, is going to have to do with collecting evidence based that you want to find, not the evidence that you were told to watch out for. And it's going to have to do with setting up a creative, devotional, ritual offering that gets God to notice. And I want you to think outside the box. I want you to play. I want you to surprise yourself. So a way that we can disrupt patterns, I know I'm going a little over time here, but thank you for flowing with me. There's so much. It's so fun to just explore this. And I'm looking forward to more calls, just going deeper into the different pockets with this stuff. But anytime that you can have the presence of mind to create a pattern disrupt through your choice, through your free will, is going to exercise and flex that muscle. So even, I'll be honest, before I got on this call, because honesty is magic too, before I got on this call, I was clearing my throat. I woke up and I had like congestion in my airway, and it was driving me nuts, and it was putting me in a bad mood. And I was like, I'm supposed to do this prayer call and I'm clearing my throat and I'm not in a good mood. And like, I caught myself and I just started like, my cats were staring at me and I was like, And I just started chanting with myself and talking to myself. And I was doing like this weird, like symbolic kind of like esoteric dance in the kitchen. And I was just like, no, I'm not going down that train of thought. I'm going to dance and I'm going to get super weird and I'm going to get totally out of the Caitlyn right now because the Caitlyn is doing this thing that the Caitlyn does. And like, no, 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 I'm not going down that rabbit hole, right? I'm going to change it up. So you can get out of your bed on the opposite side that you normally do. You could sleep upside down. You could set yourself up a really funky, weird outfit that's like something you would never wear and like lay it out for yourself the next day. If you normally don't dress up at all and don't make yourself feel nice and pretty or sexy or whatever, you might suddenly choose like, it's a random ass Tuesday, but I'm going to get dolled up and feel as fly as I can for this day for no good reason. Or if I always have to be dolled up or look super fly, I'm going to get brave and just do no makeup, not try, be as comfortable as possible, be as invisible as possible, play with this. What is the novel, disruptive thing that I can do to train myself to break patterns all the time, to get out of the default world, to get out of the default mode? I'm going to read you guys a quote that came to me from for this call, and I hadn't read it in a long time, and it's so on point. I'm sure you guys, most of you have heard it. It's by Terence McKenna. Nature loves courage. You make the commitment, and nature will respond to that commitment by removing impossible obstacles. Dream the impossible dream, and the world will not grind you under. It will lift you up. This is the trick. This is what all these teachers and philosophers who really counted, who really touched the alchemical gold, this is what they understood. This is the shamanic dance in the waterfall. This is how magic is done. By hurling yourself into the abyss and discovering it's a feather bed. It's remarkable to notice, bless our hearts, how much courage it takes to just do something a little differently. Why? But it does. And it's honorable to recognize that it does take this courage. Just changing the way we look for a day, just changing what we do, just changing it up, just bringing forward a part of ourselves that feels a little bit less safe. That takes courage. And nature loves courage. The universe, the cosmos will resound with applause for your courage. Resound with applause for what seems like this inconsequential little novel creative act. And from that place, as we're dancing in that creativity, as we're dancing in that timelessness, art will come in. The sacred cosmic eggs that we are here to birth will have their opportunity to flow through us. We'll get inspired for our works of art. We'll have poetry born. We'll have songs come through. We'll discover new sides of ourselves and we'll get to give them into the world. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lead us in a closing prayer, but I want to take a moment before we do the prayer, I want to take a few minutes for you guys to just write down, feeling into what are you thankful for in this moment? And what do you want? We need to take the opportunity while we have this presence. I'm going to step away and use the restroom. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to clarify your gratitude and your desire. Your gratitude and your desire. And I'll come back and I'll lead us in a closing prayer and give you a final mission statement. And we'll be off on our beautiful Saturday afternoons to have a magical weekend. All right. Godspeed, magicians. I'll be right back. I'm going to put a recap of the prompts here in the chat, and I'm going to add one. And we're going to feel into the third thing is maybe even four, just for fun. You can just let it steep. But third thing, knowing what I'm grateful for and knowing what I desire, my clarified desire. What do I want to put on the altar of my attention? And how am I going to feed that altar? What offerings do I want to make? So I'll write that in here so you can visually reference it. Oh, this is beautiful, Jen. I'm reading. Thank you. And yes, please follow suit if you'd like to share what came through in the chat to add it to our field. Now, everything that's being felt and tracked right now, whether or not we share it, it's part of the collective field. And things are certainly activated and amplified by bringing them down into the physical and sharing. So if you feel called to share what is coming through, please do. Mm. Wow, Jen, beautiful. Yes, freshening up the altar. Deem one of my bracelets magical. Symbols in the garden. Beautiful. I'm gonna put on this candy bracelet for this final prayer. Oh, thank you. Yes. My desire is to feel the depth of flirting with God and feeling God flirting back. Let's go. Less of me and more of him. Yes. I will meet the sunrise with song, even if the neighborhood hears me. Let's go. Beautiful. I love this very much. Thank you all. Thank you for staying on. I know I talked for a long time. Wow. Hummingbird medicine and sunset medicine and sunrise medicine. Sunset and sunrise are very potent times. They're times of transition, lots of potential, dreamlike, liminal. Yes. Oh, I'm so happy you said this, Nastasia. So something I'm going to start to share about. Please keep, taking notes if anything's coming through for you. primary, most important thing here is your connection. So if something's coming through, just tune me out and stay with it. But this is really important in relationship. And this is something that all of my spiritual teachers have taught me in different ways. But one in particular, when I worked with my shamanic altar training, my teacher, Gabriella, would always invite us to pause and feel. And what she would really, and then we'd say, I had a couple of fellow students say, well, what should I do now? And she would say, well, what do you want to do? What do you think your altar needs? What do you feel is needed? And they would be quiet and listen. And then they would dare to make a move to feed a certain direction or work with something in a certain way. And this is at its heart listening. So another thing we do in honorable relationship is we listen. A lot of times we'll come with our prayer, and even if we've got a really nice prayer structure and it's like, thank you, starting with gratitude, and then please help me, and then please show me, and then I will do this part. And we just talk and talk and talk at God, and we forget to actually listen. And so, Drea was alluding with hers, I need more of him and less of me. This is a really great insight to have, because usually that involves the listening, right? It's like having the conversation for in our own minds. And I do this a lot. And this is why I created this call primarily for myself. I need to get my own inner God to notice. I need to get my own attention back on this relationship and listen. So listening is vital. This is the dance between my will and thy will. And the more we play in devotion, the more we play in our prayer and we bring our attention to this conversation, the more grace we will over time develop in surrendering my will and the way I think it should look and my attachment to that symbol, and opening up to the grace of the ridiculous masterpiece, which might say, not yet, sweetie, not like that. You got more to learn. It's going to come in a different way. But we won't be able to hear that, and we won't be able to respect that if we don't develop a relationship with this primary gorgeous relationship with source, with God, that makes space for thy will, makes space for the great artist that's designing the ridiculous masterpiece. And what tends to happen is when we get excited about making magic and we get excited about participating in the miracles and we have a really strong sense of what we want, we need that desire like a bow and arrow. We need something to aim at. We need something that onboards our heart and gets us in the game and gets us focused on directing ourselves through the noise to that place of divine desire that's our soul's longing, our soul's calling, our soul's need in many ways. And we direct ourselves that way. But there's also a bigger picture that sometimes we invest that, and over the course of a month, say, everything gets actually harder feeling. And that can be a huge blow to our faith. It can be a huge blow, a deflating and terrifying sense of, what did I do wrong, right? All the old programming, or like, why don't I deserve to have my prayers answered? Why isn't the prayer being answered? I've been praying with so much devotion. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe God's not real. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm unworthy. And all of these stories can start to pop up. And then there can be even more interference, right? That lasts an even longer time. But when we train ourselves to listen for God's will, to listen for God's guidance, to listen for the divine designing a map of perfection for us to be ready to receive the prayer answered, we get to develop and cultivate grace that honors the other in the relationship. This is something that we can see mirrored in our human relationships. There's other will. We have free will, and there's other will. And we are, dancing with the will of others on this dimension and the divine will. And so I just want to plant that seed is I feel like I've just gone through a big dissolution experience in my life. All of the known is crumbling. Not all of it. I still got Eric and I still have lots of love and lots and that, ooh, I got to watch that, right? Like that's the filtration of being like, oh, everything is being destroyed. And it's like, no, a few things that were really important to you changed. But nevertheless, um, in that, there's this terror that wants to come up because I remember other times in my life where the known crumbled and I felt trauma happen and I felt pain happen and I got big core wounds in those moments and or I made bad choices or I got consumed by fear. In this moment, because of the ways that I've worked with my devotion creatively over the past 5 years or so, in particular, really decade, but really in the past 3 to 5 years, in this moment, I'm able to have faith because I actually respect God's plan, so to speak. I respect the divine design. And my book, Ridiculous Masterpiece, the title is honoring that because in the past, I didn't have enough faith to get through those moments. The result was I ended up having moments that felt like miracles, which is also beautiful because I didn't see them coming. I was like, no way. Like it does get better. It's this and better than I could have imagined. Like my younger self never would have believed some of the miracles that came in. But because I've lived that now, I can anchor to that faith in the time where things feel uncertain and terrifying. And right now, there are aspects of our collective experience that feel terrifying, devastating. And we need an anchor. We got to have something in our core that's going to keep us tethered to this love that we are in times of great fear and great disruption and great dissolution. Because the interior mirrors the exterior. And a lot of us are experiencing radical change, radical disruption, lots of destabilization, lots of dissolution. This is the time to double down. This is the time to get more creative. This is the time to get more loving. This is the time to get more joyful. This is the time to get more surprising to God. I still feel you. I am here. I'm going to keep dancing. I'm going to write a new poem today. I'm going to sing, and I'm going to sing for us. So, what's it going to be? What are we going to look for to collect evidence about? Because we can track the way our brilliant superpower of belief collects evidence and recreates the expected experience. We can take the evidence of our power and apply that in a creative way, which is what is the evidence I'm going to look for from now on. Doesn't mean I'm going to disclude sometimes there's guidance that's important and it's not always like, rainbows and butterflies here. And we want to pay attention to all of it. But we don't want to get so consumed by um, the fear or the vigilance that we cannot see the evidence of the good anymore. Right? We got to hold on to evidence of the good. We got to be able to advocate for our faith in the good. And we got to participate and create that. So that's our first part is we're going to start collecting evidence for what's actually going to support life on this planet. What's going to support our growth? What's going to support our expansion? It's going to support our creative power. And the second piece is we're going to devote. We're going to give the offering, the sacrifice of our time in a way that feels really good because God's in us too. And so we don't want it to feel like suffering. When I trained as a teacher for Kundalini Yoga, I got my certification in 2016. There was a practice we had to complete in order to graduate with our certification. We had to do a 40-day sadhana. And the 40-day sadhana was every day during the ambrosial hours between 4 and 6:30 a.m. I was always a 6 a.m. girl. I don't think I ever got up at 4, maybe once. Uh, it was by design at the most difficult time where you are usually in your deepest sleep to come out in your dream state. And we had a specific regimen, and we would do a cold shower. We would do tongue scraping. We would put on our whites, and we would do breath work, um, kriyas, which were moving mudras, the different yoga positions. We would do about 22 of those, I believe. And then we would do a meditation with chanting. And we had to do that every day for 40 days in order to graduate. If you missed a day, you had to start over, and it was in good faith. And that's a beautiful thing to feel because it holds you in accountability to your soul. It's like, I could lie, but why would I do that? Like, oh God, you know? And so I remember getting 16 days in and missing a day and having to start over. And it was hard. And you could feel the accountability to yourself. And the reason that in Kundalini, the Kundalini tradition, they have you do those hours is not only because it's super challenging and it calls you forward, but also because they believe that that is the ambrosial hour where all of the potential for the new day is generated. So you might be dreaming normally at that time or resting, which is also super valuable. But if you can bring devotion in at that time, it can be really potent. So in 2022, I had a really profound, I talked about it at length on a podcast of Aubrey's in that year. God, was it that year? A few years ago. I had a really profound awakening moment that was connected with the rising sun. I won't tell you all the whole story, but I felt inspired to do a 40 days of dawn devotion. And I was so inspired. I was like, oh my God, it's a ridiculous masterpiece. That's where the phrase came from. I was like, it's all so beautiful. There's so much magic happening here. It's so much bigger than me. It's like, God, I have to honor this. So a way that we respond to the guidance we're given and the gifts we're given is honoring. So you could give your devotion for honoring what you've already received, or you could invest it in paying it forward in what you want to help create for yourself or for the planet. It's always both, anyways, right? You do it for the planet, it happens for yourself. You do it for yourself, it happens for the planet. So follow your aliveness, your truth, your resonance. And you don't have to follow this prescription, but I did this call today because tomorrow is Easter. Tomorrow is a symbol of the resurrection of the Son of God. And I remember how powerful it was for me to make that sacrifice for those 40 days. I never missed a day. There were a couple days where I got up and I did the bare minimum. I mean, the bare. Like I got up and I remember being in Sedona and it was like I'd gone to bed at 2 a.m. I was cold. I was exhausted. I walked out to the living room. I didn't even go outside. It was the only day I think that I didn't go outside because I really wanted to go outside every day. But I got out of bed and I looked out the window and I stood there and I just watched the sun rise and crest over the mountains. And I waited until it was high in the sky enough to see the whole sun. And I said a little prayer and I went back to sleep. But I did it, and it felt so affirming and so magical. And so many good things happened for me in the year that followed and in real time as I stayed committed to that devotion. So because I've been so away from my thread of devotion, I have all of these altars, these dusty altars, like Jen said, I'm going to reset my altar. I have all of this, clutter, as above, so below, as within, so without. I am ready to come home to this relationship. And so starting tomorrow, I'm going to bite the bullet. I am not a morning person right now, and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do 40 days of dawn starting tomorrow. And any of you are welcome to join me. And my intention is to dance with the dawn. Will I do that every day? I don't know. My commitment is to get up at dawn for 40 days. Oh, I can feel the cringe. But my intention is to dance with the dawn. And that is a take it or leave it invitation. If you want to join me in the Playhouse, I'm going to put a little invitation in there today formally to the group. And I'll share and do some check-ins around those of us who are like the bringers of the dawn. And any of you who are not in the Playhouse, you're still welcome to join. You can tag me on Instagram and share posts, or you can hop in with us, or do it for yourself. Or if you feel like that's too much right now, that doesn't feel exciting for me, your invitation is to create a creative devotional offering that will get God to notice. And I would love to hear your stories about, yes, Carly, woo, Easter baby. Amazing. So yeah, this is the divine assignment, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if there's any gentlemen left on here anymore. I don't think so. There weren't many. There's a few that signed up, but um, I would love to hear what you choose. And even if you do it for one day, maybe it's one altar building, maybe it's one, you dress up in costume and go around town and wave at people or whatever. It can look like anything. Make it your own, but track it and then watch and collect evidence for God noticing you back. And we will have another Temple of Wow here soon. So with that, I want to read this really quick before I do our little closing prayer. Mhm. Yay. Yes. Keeping your word to yourself. Yes. It's how we build integrity. It's how we build trust, right? Which creates timelessness, which creates creativity. Perhaps some mornings it will be a sway. Yes. The sway still is noticeable. Love it. Love, love, love. Yeah, and maybe, if you have children or you have a morning job, like it's all about presence and intention, right? So if you're holding your baby at dawn and you can't actively watch the sun, tune into it. You're there, right? It's like, did I forget or not? Am I here with my whole heart, the best that I can be? Um, Intention is everything, and presence. Wow, amazing. Whoa, amazing synchronicity. I don't know who iPhone is, or my fellow Dawn devotee. Melissa, oh yeah, that's right. Okay. I wasn't sure if it was, oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Amazing. Yay, my girl Melissa. All right. I love you. Thank you for tuning in. I know those of you who are on iPhone, it can be a little challenging to stay in a Zoom call for this long. All right, beautiful. Beautiful. So let's just bring this home. Let's maybe rub our hands together, connecting the left and right hemispheres of our brains, building up some heat, generating some life force, feeling our creative power. We're going to bring them over our eyes and take a deep breath in, feeling the way that this disconnects us from the stimulus, the stimulation, the information, and it drops us into presence. Breathing and drawing down all of the glimmers of magic and wonder and love that you've touched today. Coming back into intimacy with yourself, you can relax your hands, bring them to your heart, belly, bring them into prayer, whatever feels true, whatever helps you stay present with you. And feeling for this as we move forward, what helps me come into presence as my essence, offering up our genuine thanks, our deepest and holiest, wholehearted gratitude for what a blessing it is to have this technological fire with so much power, so much risk, even so many aspects of distraction. And yet, here we are riding the liquid crystal, as Eric says, to be able to see one another's faces and feel the resonance and the harmony of our co-regulating souls in curiosity, in wonder, compassion, being able to affirm one another in our humanity and in our divinity. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Creator, for this opportunity to connect and to place our attention on you in a way that feels true for us, in spite of the noise, in spite of the chaos, in spite of the distraction. We are here. Thank you. Thank you for calling us together. Giving thanks to the divine spark within, this ember that burns brightly with the light of the divine. This part that remembers and knows its true holy nature. This light that never goes out. Thank you, courage. Thank you, trust. Thank you, faith. Thank you for every moment of abundance, relief, magic, blessing that has affirmed this trust, that has fed this curiosity, that has kept this conversation with God alive through our art, through our moments of intimacy and joy and aliveness. Thank you for all of the guides in the unseen realm, these mysteries, our guides like the hummingbird and the hawk, our guides like the symbol of the outstretched hands, the dolphin swimming, the spiral infinitely swirling, the ripples of the ocean. Thank you for the greater spirits and the greater forces behind these gifts that we are given. Thank you for the dream time, for the elemental forces. Thank you to Mama, Nature, Earth Mother, for your endless generosity and unconditional love. Thank you, thank you, thank you to our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, and on and on and on since the dawn of time. For all that you've done to make it possible for us to be here in these bodies at this really, really important time in Earth's history and in Earth's future. Thank you for the opportunity to be a participant, a co-creator, a collaborator in the future of what will be. Thank you for our brave spirits that are willing to change the pattern, to flip the script, to write a more interesting story, to do our part in the collective happy ending so that this story actually never really ends. Thank you for our might. Thank you for our grit. Thank you for our will to make change, to be uncomfortable, to make sacrifices where we need to do our part. And thank you for the passion of our unique souls that informs the just right way that we are here to serve. Thank you for this deep core knowing beneath all of the shame and guilt, that deep down we really understand that what we desire and what we love has meaning and purpose. Please help us to follow it with trust while making space for the surrender of honoring thy will, the divine will, in relationship with my will, my desire, the needs of my soul. May we be good stewards. May we make good magic. May we bring the light into these shadows of confusion, fear, and doubt at this time. May we choose it in every moment, taking the uncharted path, dancing and singing our way through it into new territory as a collective. Feeling a moment to feel your own unique prayer. Feeling a moment to make space for your devotion. Never underestimating simplicity. Finding the just right balance between what you can wholeheartedly, authentically, and joyfully give, but enough challenge to call you forward, enough challenge to get you to notice. Honoring your inspiration as the just right way forward. The divine lover and divine artist in me sees the divine lover and the divine artist in you. May we be guided. May we do our part. May we find evidence for the holy wow every day. Aho, amen, ashe, abracadabra. And so it is. And so it shall be. Thank you all so much. I look forward to hearing about the adventures. Mm. Mm. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you, Victoria. Mm. Thank you, Pearl, Melissa, Zoe, Andrea, Nastasia, Susie. Thank you. And to all of our brothers and sisters who were in the circle with us before. In solidarity and in magic. Here we go, baby. Mm. I love you all. I look forward to the next gathering. I'll make it available to anybody who feels called, and we'll be keeping the fire in the temple in the Playhouse Expressive. So I'll see you guys there. Have a great weekend, you guys. Happy Easter.